All right. Yeah. So the PlayStation Vita, Sony's most famous dead system, is not really dead. There are games coming out for it. In fact, 3 of them came out today. Amazingly enough, we got Lego Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Yay!
We got God Eater Resurrection.
Yay!
And we got Adventures of Mana, which was this wonderful little sort of like that was one of those things where like, oh, they're thinking about maybe local. Just kidding, it's out. It's out.
Yeah.
It's free in the wild. Go get it.
And the big thing about that is like God Eater sounds weird in that list because I know it's not like a major franchise, but it is like that's a Bandai Namco game, and you know Lego is obviously WB, and then Square put out that Final Fantasy game, and it's cool because like those are on one day 5 Vita games came out. 3 of them were from major publishers. The other 2 are like pretty popular smaller games.
Marty, you reviewed Force Awakens. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
Did you try the Vita version yet?
No, they haven't sent us any version other than the PS4 version.
Because I will say that I've played I played almost all of the Lego games that have come to Vita in the last few years, as well as on 3DS. I'm a huge fan of playing those on handhelds because they are kind of grindy.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially after you beat the campaign for the first time.
Yeah.
But Marvel, so Avengers is the first one that wasn't. Avengers is the first one where it was the one-to-one open world, kind of.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Like Avengers is interesting because like I only put a little bit of time into it. Actually, that's like next time I have a long flight, one of those games I want to dig deeper into. But yeah, like the world was there. It's just a little bit restricted. It's very empty. It's not populated in the way the Vita one is, or the PS4 one is. Like flying around it is really cool, but it just gets old really fast.
So I feel like they could definitely make, again, like I haven't tried the Vita version, I want to this week. They could definitely make Force Awakens works because it's not one giant central hub like Manhattan. It's a bunch of smaller bite-sized hubs. So there's no like central terrifyingly huge world. You can't just like be Boba Fett and fly into the air and go wherever you want.
Why
like
not?
Because he passed away by that film.
He did not
So
die.
is their hub
Dengar
You can just fly inside the Sarlacc, it's just up and down.
Is there a hub that sort of like resistance hangar?
There's
terminal?
multiple hubs.
Oh, okay,
That's
cool.
a hub. Maz Kanata's planet after it gets
called
messed up.
Takodana.
I know it's called Takodana. I learned what all these planets are called because Jakku's the only one they name by name. Yeah. The Millennium Falcon is a hub. Starkiller Base is a hub. Jakku itself is a hub. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
You're going to make a great hub someday.
I guess we can cautiously recommend Force Awakens for Vita, like based on their.
I mean, I would wait. I would say see it because the Vita games are either like some of them are just one-to-one with the 3DS games, which is really weird because they're just like
they're up-res versions of the 3DS games. That's what Lego Jurassic World was.
And it's like the old school Lego games, like the original Lego Star Wars, where you kind of have that like main small hub area, and then you have kind of missions that are in single worlds, and you come back.
Yeah. Also, talking about Namco, man, I wish Namco would put Ni no Kuni on Vita, which
it would be so perfect.
It probably
well, there was a 3DS version that never came out stateside. Which is really bizarre because
it's like an old school grindy RPG. Well, like the DS was huge back then.
Yeah.
Was it DS or 3DS?
It's DS.
Oh, it was originally DS.
It was DS.
Oh,
yeah.
really? Oh, that's so strange because you think that like I mean at that point like a PS3 exclusive versus a DS game, like what's the install base there? Like what?
Yeah. My ignorance for the way the sort of like marketing and production side of the industry is showing right now, but I feel like with digital distribution, it should be more logical than ever to sell stuff that you would probably beforehand thought like this isn't going to have a big impact on the market. We're not going to sell 100K versions of Ni no Kuni 3DS ported to Vita or whatever. But like it seems like now more than ever you can just put a JPEG up on the storefront on PSN and sell a game that would have been taking up a corner in a store somewhere.
Exactly.
Like if you go to a GameStop,
there's no physical manufacturing, there's no real estate.
Yeah, there's no middleman anymore.
It's just bandwidth.
It's
and like
Sony
when the PSP first came out, they talked about, I think it was Kaz Hirai talked about how the PSP was going to rescue gaming from the handheld gaming ghetto.
Yeah.
And I remember being like a little thrown off by that because I'm just like, well, what do you mean ghetto? Like that's a stupid.
Nintendo, like the one thing they don't make mistakes on are handhelds.
Yeah, and it's also it's like you wouldn't call PC gaming a ghetto. Like ghetto is just a stupid term to throw to something like that. But if you go into like a GameStop now, like I was in the one on Market Street in San Francisco the other day, like the all of the 3DS stuff is down in the downstairs in a corner, like it's kind of in the ghetto, like it's kind of in the dark. It's off
like
off to the
dungeon,
side.
Really.
It's basically in the dungeon. Yeah. So like to go down there and be like, do they have this game? Like I wanted to pick up a game for 3DS and they didn't have it, and they only had it online. And it's like, well, then I could buy it through the eShop, but it's more expensive through there.
Yeah.
And like I feel like with games like this, especially on Vita, as it's dying, like take games like that and put it there. Put it on the store. Sell it in a place where...
Well, we're getting there. Like, let's finish this list here, because we've also got World of Final Fantasy coming in October, Dragon Quest Builders in October, I Am Setsuna is out in Vita.
So that one's weird, because in Japan, it's sort of the opposite of what you just said. You would think they would just bring it over, because that game's being localized. It's out on Vita in Japan, but here it's only coming to PC and PS4. But that's one, like, the fact that they did decide to bring... Adventures of Mana over, the fact that World of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest are coming over, I feel like there's kind of still hope for I Am Setsuna.
And maybe these are almost litmus tests. Like, how is this working? Like, if they do move a couple thousand units, which it doesn't need to move a ton. And like we know through evidence that like Vita owners, they're small in number, but the attach rate of games is huge.
Yeah,
like people with a Vita buy a lot of games.
They're dedicated. And
weird.
they're passionate.
I mean, for I Am Setsuna, I feel like Square could literally just be like, "Hey, here's the Japanese version, and you can download a dump of the English subtitles from the PS4 version that we already localized anyway. That'll just exist."
Yeah,
and I feel like that would kind of be enough. Like they don't. It's not like it needs touchscreen features. It's not like
Joker's
it needs anything.
download it.
Really,
exactly.
Like I kind of hate where the Vita is right now in that they won't acknowledge its existence, that it's either living nor dead. I mean, a really good thing that I like to see at the end of a life cycle or of a console or a handheld is that there is a dedicated forward-facing advertising campaign around a price drop, and they go, "This is what this is now. It's $79.99 or $99.99. It comes bundled with these 4 digital games and a month of PlayStation Plus and a memory card, a memory card that doesn't cost more than the PSP or Vita itself." And all of a sudden, you get it into hands with a whole bunch of people, and people are playing it for the very first time.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I feel like the same thing happened with the PSP and the PSP Go, where it's like Sony just kind of like pumped the brakes, or just they kind of abandoned it,
Yeah,
I think it's because of VR.
Yeah,
I mean, I think honestly they're so focused on.
They don't want to flood the market, but like, it's just also. I mean, even if it's just like, hey, back page. Oh, by the way, here's the standard price point now.
Yeah,
but they don't even want to say it's a thing. And like,
do an official price drop to $89.99 or something.
But I guess that's what I'm
Bundle in
saying.
A bunch
like,
of games. Put a big ad in GameStop.
I think you get that in Q1 if they're going to do that, because I think right now, like to be totally honest, no one in the hardware team at Sony should give a shit about the Vita right now. Like, I love the Vita. I hate to say it, but it's like they're launching experimental hardware. They're the weakest in the market. Like now is the time to let that entire team focus on the launch of that hardware, the manufacture process of that hardware, make sure there are no delays, all of that. And then next year you're like, oh, we have this other thing, it's failing. How do we save it?
I just feel like it's the perfect summertime thing. Like it's a summer gift. Like you just graduated school. Your grandmother gave you $100. Like go buy.
Dude, trust me, I agree. It's just that weird thing where like I can see why Sony doesn't.
Also,
I get that.
Yeah.
I'd love to revisit this in Q1 and see if they do anything with this.
There's one game that's very noticeably absent from this list, and I think it could save that system.
Yeah,
and it's called Galgun Double Piece, and it's a game where you've been bitten by Cupid, and you've got the ladies coming after you. You got to shoot them with your kisses.
Is that really what the game's about?
Yeah. Did you watch the trailer he put in the?
Oh, I call my kisses gal guns.
See, you laugh, but I mean, is there a better system than the Vita to play that?
It's a first-person kisser.
Yeah,
is what it is. You're on rails, and you got to go around.
You know what? The rare FPK genre. I mean,
we should. If
you play that on Vita, nobody can walk into the living room and say, "What are you doing there?"
Also, you can get right underneath those blankets and have all sorts of fun. Also, the Dead or Alive Paradise Island or whatever the hell it's called, the new one. Extra realistic beach ball.
We should mention real quick that today, Zero Time Dilemma, which is the third in like the 999 Virtue's Last Reward, and then that came out, and then Grand Kingdom, which I think Vince is playing for us. Just looks really cool, like another stylized game. Kind of reminds me almost of some of the stuff Atlas is doing, and I put that in this list too. That like Axis and Atlas and NIS, all those smaller like anime titles are still coming to Vita. Like it's not like it's totally dead.
Yeah.
And then there are indies still coming. Mighty Number 9 is supposedly still coming.
Yeah, I mean we got severed from.
How did you take Galgun off this list but added Mighty Number 9? What's wrong with you? You can't kiss anything in that game.
Because I technically bought it 3 years ago.
The game insulted you. Didn't even get your backer info.
Can you talk about that real quick?
I'm just. I did finally find my backer number.
Okay, so
I had to find
for context, you put how much money into Mighty Number 9 and how long ago?
It's like $100 in 2013.
Okay.
I think July of 2013.
You know, games aren't that expensive, right?
Yeah. Well, at the time, I was super excited. I think at the time, I did the tier where you got the physical NES box and cartridge and stuff, and I did at the time because I was buying it for Colin, I think. And now 3 years later, he doesn't have a desk to put it on, I think. Yeah, it's that weird thing where I totally feel burned by it. The game isn't even good anyway. It doesn't get me excited to play it.
But
And then-
but that NES box is really cool, right?
I bet it's gonna be, but no, I don't have it. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Fangamers making those, I'm sure they'll be great. But I mean,
This is another in the long series of Andrew Goldfarb 2016 Charlie Brown.
yeah, they
One of these days, I'm gonna
Grief,
kick
I
that
put
football.
$100 into the Kickstarter, but when it came out, they didn't put my name in the credits.
So
and I
what
waited
Brian's
all
referring
4
to,
hours.
They have a 4-hour long credit sequence of every backer of the game.
But at least it's like alphabetically,
70,000.
so you know when to
Nope,
show up.
it's by backer number.
Oh.
and
At least
there's
all their
no-
names are in there.
Nope. Yeah, I'm in as a generous backer, despite like pretty vividly remembering filling out that
Okay,
form.
but at least to get that ending, you have to beat a really good video game.
5.6. I think we gave it 5.9. Mighty
I love
number
this just-
5.9.
God damn it.
It's cascading trickle of disappointment.
Andrew, you're a blockhead.
It's really rough.
Let's talk about a thing we did like.
What?
The Legos. The Star Wars.
No, real quick, I just wanted to plug Severed from Drinkbox, which
Oh, yeah.
we never got to talk about on the show because
Yeah.
of whatever reason. I did not love it anywhere near as much as Guacamelee.
That's a tough call
yeah,
because
it's-
Guacamelee
yeah.
is fantastic.
But it's got a lot of really good stuff going for it. It's gorgeous. The music is awesome.
Super charming, and I like respect the fact that it's like they could have easily made Guacamelee 2 or
Yeah.
anything that they're
They
like,
tried
hey, we're gonna try
something new.
something way different. We're gonna try something that is one of the few games that totally utilizes like the Vita's inherent
Guacamelee
abilities.
2, Ava Combat.
It's a
I love that name so much.
It's a touchscreen game that actually has fairly deep combat. I know you hear touchscreen and you're like, oh, it's like Fruit Ninja,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, it's got some stuff like that, but most things that you play on your phone are very thin and
Yeah.
and stupid and hollow experiences.
Yeah.
But this is a very deep game. It'll take you a good 6 or 7 hours to get through it.
Yeah, and I think they're working on porting that to phones actually. where I
it's
think
coming,
Yeah, they
it's
announced
coming
a
to
bunch
pretty
of
much
other-
everything.
yeah,
anything with a touchscreen.
Anything with a touchscreen. So 3DS, Wii U, iPhone, everything.
It's also just pretty. Like, I mean, like the one thing it does share with Guacamelee is that art, which is just
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah.
And like on Vita screen, like
That kind of paper cutout style.
almost like
it's
Yeah, the
that
dead
really,
thing. Yeah.
it's that rare thing where like I really am happy
Rare?
with the slim Vita. Like I'm glad I got the plastic one. It's cheaper, it's easier to charge because you don't have the proprietary thing.
With that screen?
But yeah, that like Severed on the OLED screen looks so good. Like that's one of those rare games where it is worth having. A
One last
better
really quick
picture.
Vita thing. I tweeted a picture the other day of the charging dock I have for my Vita. They're going for $5 now. They're official,
Oh.
and you basically just plant your Vita right into it, put the charging cable in the back of it. Your Vita will never die of battery.
Yeah, I have the
They're
little.
awesome.
I have the real small official Sony one. It's
Yep.
like it's literally like
It's a little metal stand.
yeah, and you
that's
put it on. It just has the
Yep.
charging dock. right
Yeah,
on
do
it.
that one again.
I have-
held the circle in your hand and then you went on top.
We're going to talk about the Vita. We're doing it. I'm just going to say we're going to do that. We're renegades. We're on the loose.
Wait, we're
gonna
gonna talk about the Vita. We did. We just
No, we are. I mean, we're just
Yeah,
going to
it was
keep
good.
talking about it. I was hanging out with Nina Freeman, who made Sybil and
He's working on Tacoma now.
Yep.
And she's telling me like her latest, the thing she's into is like dating sims, like Japanese, like what are they called? Like they're called like
Oh, the Otome.
Otome, yeah. But she's telling me there's one where it's like feudal Japanese like samurai, but there's also like vampires, but it's also historically accurate. But you're like dating these vampire samurai.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, look up what NIS and Axis,
yeah.
AKSYS, are publishing on Vita. Like, there's a lot of weird
Yeah.
but awesome.
I was
smaller
like, how do you
games.
play those? Like PC or whatever? And she's like, no, they're on Vita. And I'm like, what? Really?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I guess I better go poke around and find out what I can date besides those birds.
Yeah,
and
there's
how
the
to
one where you
work
try to
for
like pinch the pigeons, where like you
Oh,
date
How
a
to
pigeon
Fool a
boy and try
Boyfriend?
to you get him in the,
Also,
you get him in the
and
top.
a sequel to.
Dig down into the PSN flash sales they do all the
yeah.
time.
Oh my God.
They
Yes.
just did one this week
With
that had
a bunch of Square games,
Yep.
where they had a
Tons of
bunch of
Square
PS1
games.
RPGs, where like the Final Fantasy games are like $5,
Yep.
and
Yep.
same
Yep.
with Chrono Cross.
And that's even aside from like, if you don't own a Vita, like if you listen to the show, if you have a PS4 and you don't own a Vita, like they are cheap enough to get now that it's worth it. Like there are enough good games.
It's honestly less about what's coming forward and more about what's already there. From PS1 classics to a bunch of indie games that have come out to everything. A bunch of indie games that you might already own cross-buy that you don't even realize.
Exactly. That's I mean, like even freaking Mighty Number 9, like that is gonna be free if you bought the PS4 version.
Did
It's
you
just
say freaking?
yeah, I was gonna swear, but I'm trying to make your life easier.
It's writing something down. It's not
freaking Mighty Number 9. Come on, man. Jeez.
freaking freaks. God.
So yeah, the Vita's alive. Stop
It
saying
is
it's
alive.
dead.
I think Atlas and NIS and Axis are keeping it alive, but also it's cool seeing big publishers publish stuff.
Do you like legit like? Just a question: like, are we ever going to see another Sony handheld ever, or is
I
Sony
would
just
assume
going to?
No.
Is Sony going to do what? Because I don't think Sony's going to stop making mobile games, but I think depending on the success of Nintendo in the actual like mobile market in terms of like Apple products and stuff,
Yeah.
I could see them certain studios making games that come to iOS. and come to Android.
I mean, Miitomo was a hit.
Yeah.
People dropped off of it like crazy, but it made them a
but
good
they
amount of
haven't
money
did-
for a
I
while.
mean, even Pokemon Go that's coming, which is separate from Nintendo.
Yeah.
Like we haven't seen the Fire Emblem and the
and
Animal
Animal Crossing.
Like,
Those
yeah.
are going to be like the litmus
Yeah.
test.
And I mean, if you look at the stuff that
And Mario
Sony's,
eventually, I assume.
if you look at the stuff Sony's tried already, I mean, like there's just like that Uncharted gem collecting game.
Uncarded.
And, Uncarded.
I mean, like-
it's like again very hollow experiences.
But I would totally. There's a bunch of PS1 games I think that would work on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like the first Crash Bandicoot could sort of work on the phone
Oh,
because
yeah.
its platforming wasn't precise enough to like require.
Well, and the
like
thing
Temple
is-
Run in
yeah,
reverse.
yeah.
The way they could be successful is by doing what Nintendo's doing is sort of taking known franchises. Like I would be very surprised if the Animal Crossing and Fire Emblem games are actually full games. I think they'll be full games, but I mean they won't be like the full games on 3DS.
Yeah.
Because I think they are smarter to. They don't want you to buy that instead. They want you to buy it in addition. And I think Sony could just be like, well, buy it instead. Like if they're not leaning into the Vita, they could do stuff like what you're
I mean,
saying.
you
have
could
you
put a Parappa game
Yes,
on
totally.
iOS.
And
Have you
that's
guys
the way I
played
think they
the
could find
the
success.
Rayman games on iOS?
Oh yeah, like Jungle Run and
Those are so
yeah.
good.
So they're not necessarily endless runners, although they are.
But you are
controlled
constantly
automatically.
moving. You are not
But
moving to the
you're
right.
You have
constantly
the
moving,
background, foreground
but you can still do
switching and-
platforming. You
Yep.
can jump and stuff like that.
Have
Like
special
I
moves.
would totally see one of their games like Ratchet and Clank working like that.
Yeah.
Something like Knack even working
Yeah.
like that.
Sure.
Lumines would be a awesome
Yeah,
iPhone game.
Patapon.
There is a Luminous on iOS, but it's from way early on. It sucks. Like,
Yeah.
I think you could do a better. I mean, first party
I forgot
games
about that.
would be different than because I think Ubisoft published the last Luminous game. If I remember right, the Vita one.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong.
No, I didn't know that.
But yeah, I think there are a lot of games that would work from like little like rhythm games, all that stuff. I do wonder how a full like put a PS1 classic on just straight up.
Yeah,
like, I
or just
wonder-
like smaller mini game experiences. Like take Norman Reedus, you could maybe wash his ass in Death Stranding.
yeah, just make his
Get
baby.
those baby
face.
I mean, there was a Metal Gear Solid 4 on iOS.
And it was
Yeah.
like surprisingly competent. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't. It was no MGS game, but it was a cover based shooter.
God, I would love to have the first Metal Gear Solid on my phone.
Yep.
I mean, people are jailbreaking their phones and putting emulators on anyway. It's
Yeah.
like, why wouldn't Sony make $4.99 a pop
Jar
and just
barking? The
make
jar
that a real
barking?
thing? The jar barking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
got
so
a-
I don't know. I guess it's for them. It's about deciding, can they make a couple bucks off that on PS4 by remastering it? But the reality is, people are playing games on their phone, and Sony should be there. And they're not going to make another dedicated handheld. And people want portable Sony experiences, so put the worlds together and fix it.
I wonder
Yeah.
if we'll ever see like another Xperia Play type thing where they're like, oh, here's a phone that's a gaming phone. It's
I think times have
that
changed.
time
Yeah.
has to have moved past.
And also,
Yeah.
like, I mean, honestly, the big thing when they lean into mobile will be when there's a proper remote play app for iOS and Android. Like, I mean, I
Yeah.
think like that's when I can see it really kind of being a hey, like this is part of the ecosystem fully. And they have PlayStation Mobile, and they've always been. I mean, I guess they kind of don't have PlayStation Mobile, but they've been kind of knocking at that door for a while. It'll be interesting seeing which of Nintendo or Sony really just says screw it and like makes it a full part of their ecosystem.
Yeah.
And I mean, it would make sense for Sony to be first, but we'll see.